सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Om, may Brahman protect us both, the teacher and the taught. May Brahman give the fruits of this study. May we accomplish great things together. May the study enlighten us. May there be no disharmony amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace. So today we are embarking on another Viveka, Drik Drishti Viveka. Viveka means to separate, to segregate, to tell apart. So, to separate, two things are must. In Vedanta, there are varieties of discrimination between the real and the unreal, permanent and impermanent, changeless, changing, etc., etc. We have dealt enough with that in the VVSM sessions. Vedanta, in various Upanishads and various treatises which came after Upanishads, mainly through Adi Shankara, Vidyaranya, and few others, it deals with this Viveka in various ways, so that maybe one of them click. So there is this Shariratraya Viveka, discrimination between the three bodies, gross, subtle, causal. Panchakosha Viveka, we dealt with this in Satchipur, and then vividly in the Viveka. Then Avastatraya Viveka, three states of consciousness, waking, dream, deep sleep. Karya Karana Viveka, Viveka discrimination between the cause and the effect. And also a small part, a part of the Tattva Bodhapur, we also saw the Dvaita Viveka in the VVS. And today we are taking up Drishya Viveka. Discrimination between the seer and the seen. The purpose is one, to discover the self within. Roots are many, analogies are many, contemplation points are many. Otherwise, why would he be teaching for 10 years, 9 years now, the same truth? Maybe in one, like the Buddha God, under the Bodhi tree. Maybe one of them may claim. That is how an Acharya continues, never-ending efforts for that day to come in the life of his disciple. There are two opinions about this. Who is the author of this book? Some say it is Adi Shankara, some say it is Vidyaranya who gave us the Panchadashi. Doesn't matter. We say in Tamil, Rishi Moolam, Nadi Moolam, we should not see. Okay, we should just take the nectar. Like the honeybee does not see the type of the flower. It is just got one dharma. It goes and sucks the honey and takes the honey. That's it. That's why he says, don't bother about this person at all. You take whatever is flowing through him and forget him. We're going to take up the 5 verses of the chapter 1, which go logically. There cannot be a more logical, more rational, more scientific way of describing. There is nothing abstract about today's sport. It's all totally logical. Any intellectual mind, any logical mind can grasp. Not high intellectual, any logical mind can grasp. Grasping is easy. Contemplating the Nidhyasana experience, that is the challenge. Okay, now for the first verse. Rupam drishyam lochanam dre tadrishyam dhrittu manasam drishyadhi vritya sakshi drik eva natu drishyate. It says forms, colors are the seen. Rupam drishyam, lochanam drik. Eye is the seer. Rupam means basically color. Various colors, various shapes, various forms are the seen. And lochanam drik. Okay. And drik eva natu drishyate. The eye cannot see itself. Now you're seated there, I am seated here. Through some equipment, you must be attending this session, satsang, right? Look at that equipment, the iPhone or the Android phone or the iPad or the laptop, whatever. Desktop. Look at that. Look at things around. And then think. It is very simple. First step. In the quiz context, the first quiz, it starts with very simple. Okay, and then dhire, then we move on to the subtlest things. It is very simple. Yes, my eyes are seeing everything. The sofa, the couch, the center table, the dining table, the TV, the table, the curtain, so on and so forth. And look at all things all around you. How many colors? How many shapes? So my eye is seeing all the things around with its variety of colors and shapes are the seen. Very simple, sir. No problem. Here, the eye is a representative sample of all the 5 sense organs. It is not only eye. You don't feel only with eye. You feel the world. You get to know about the world with smell, with touch, with ears. Okay? All the sense organs view, they are all seeing. In the sense, they are all feeling. They are all experiencing. Right? Each sense organ has a vast range of objects to differentiate from and to experience. Eye pertains to, eye is perceiving and seeing various forms and colors and shapes. Ear, it is perceiving various diverse sounds, silent, soft, loud, whistling, gurgling, thunderous, thudding, etc. etc. Skin. Is experiencing varieties, diversities, smooth, rough, tender, pricking, etc. Tongue. Sweet, sour, saline, spicy, bitter, etc. Nose. Earthy, foul, fragrant, etc. etc. The second verse, actually, the essence is the first verse. And like we write a commentary and attach the appendixes, annexures, or we make a presentation and attach the annexures. Exactly, the first verse is the crux of the first chapter. The second, third, fourth, fifth go on to explain, further elaborate on the first verse. So there could have been one way that we could have focused only on the first, but he has chosen the other way. He has taken all the 5 verses so that the second, third, fourth, fifth, it makes you very easy to understand the first verse, depth of the first verse. As we go along, we are going from the realm, gross realm to subtlest. Stay focused. Second verse about the eye. नीलपीतस्थूलसूक्ष्म ह्रस्वदीर्घादिभेदत नानाविधानि रूपाणि पश्येलोचनम् एकधा. It says the forms, objects of perception appear as various on account of distinctions like Nilapita, blue, yellow, subtle, short, long, sthula, shushma, etc. Gross, subtle, short, long. The eye, on the other hand, sees them. The eye remains as one, unchanging. The different objects, no doubt, appear as different from one another. But they are all perceived with one pair of changeless eyes, all through. There is unity in the seer, there is unity in the eyes, there is lot of diversity in this scene, the objects. Nila, Pita, Stula, Shushna, Dheerghadi. The one characteristics of the objects they see is their changeability. Change is possible only in things which are imagined with reference to substratum. That is, how do you perceive that so many things in the hall around, they are all different? How do you perceive? The diversity can be perceived only through a substratum, changeless phenomena. Suppose the eyes are also changing. These two eyes continuously keep changing. Every second minute, another eye appears. You cannot perceive anything, any diversity. Okay, just like you would have observed in the childhood. Now all those days are gone. We are all on flight, NRIs. Earlier, Delhi to Madras means only the Grand Trunk Express or the Tamil Nadu Express. There is no other way, only train. So, only when your train is standing on a platform, okay, and you are searching for that chai, samosa, etc., and another train goes past with great speed, you are able to see that the movement of the other train, fastness of the other train, because you are apart. You are standstill, you are changeless. So you are able to see the changing, the speed of the other train. You wonder, my God, is my train is also going so fast? Dangerous. It happens very, very often that your train is also moving fast. The other train is also moving very fast. Unless and until the horn is pressed by both the trains, sometimes you cannot see the other train's speed because you are also moving, it is also moving. Right? Exact. So, since the eyes are not changing, you are through the substratum changeless phenomena, you are able to see the changing objects of the world. Very clear? Now we will take three principles which we will carry it through till the end. Those who have paper pen, they can write down. Otherwise, you keep parked these three principles. It is going to go till the fifth verse. The seer and the seen are always different. First principle. The seer and the seen are always different. Second principle. The seer is one. The seen are many. Third principle. The seer is unchanging. The seen keeps on changing. Clear? Okay, from morning to evening, how many things you are handling, how many different objects, different human beings, different shapes, different colors, different objects you are. Come and go, come and go. Like the various scenes and the various actors and various characters coming and going on a movie theater, on a screen. So many things come and go. You, the spectator, are one, watching all the varieties. Extend that movie screen to the world. The world is like that. How many things you have seen from childhood to the other? Now we are not coming inward, we will go inward. This is about the external world of objects. Right? Today, for a change, we are going in advance time allocation. Let's see where we land. The second, or the third verse, stage 2. Andhya mandya pututveshu netra dharmeshu cha ekadha sankalpayet manashrotra tok adav yojyatam idam. Blindness, dullness, and sharpness are the many characteristics of the eye, but remaining the same. Now we are going inward. Yesterday, what message he said? We will go through this concept of seer and seen. We, as the seer and seen, at different levels. That's what he messaged, right? Now, for the first was about the seer and the seen. Now we are getting, spirituality is all about getting inward, getting deeper. Getting deeper means getting subtler, means getting deeper. Anur, aniya. Okay. Now we are one step inside. Blindness, dullness, sharpness are the many characteristics of the eye, but remaining the same is the mind which knows these differences. The ear, the skin also have varying characteristics. The eye, which was the seer in the first step, now that has become seen, that has become an object of perception. Who is seeing the eye, or who is interpreting the various things seen by the eye, smelt by the nose, felt by the touch, heard by the ears? Who in us, in you, is seeing, is interpreting? Take a classic example. You are listening to him now. Okay, so your ears. Is the ear all by itself finished? Nothing else is there? No. Your ear is seeing. Your ear is listening to something. Leave alone seeing him. It is immaterial. Your ear is listening to something. And through a process, through a process, whatever is being heard by you through your ears. Earlier, the ear was the seer, and whatever was heard in the world was the seen. Now, your ear is the object of perception, seen, and through a process, whatever you are listening is being conveyed, interpreted by the mind. So the mind becomes the seer. Your ear, your eyes, your nose, your skin, your touch, all of them, now they have become the seen objects. And who is seeing all of them? The mind. Practically, he has explained in the context of you are listening to him now. Okay. That is what we say. Swami says there is no use of being near, you have to be dear. Or when we say there is no use of hearing, you have to listen. Okay, when you hear, only your ear hears. Nothing gets conveyed. Your mind is preoccupied. Then still also your mind is working, but mind is somewhere else. But when you listen, you hear, and then it is carried to your mind. That is the difference between hearing and listening. Being nearer to Swami is physically staying in Puttaparthi. Being dearer to Swami can be from Czechoslovakia. You can dear to Swami. Right? So, now, so we have to validate our three principles through all this thing, journey when we are going. Now we said the scene, the objects, variety. We said so many, and then we said they are different from the seer, the mind. Now, and then we said that they keep on changing, whereas the perceiver, the seer, the mind is constant. Not constant ever, but constant with respect to whatever is being seen, experienced by the mind at a particular point of time. At different point of time, minute to minute, mind may change. You fix the time. At that time, whatever is listened, seen, the mind is constant. And the organs of perception, whatever the heard, seen, everything, they are all changing. Now we have to validate these three principles about in the context of the mind and the sense objects. Let us see. What are the varieties in these sense organs? The eye. Eye has so many varieties, at least 2-3 varieties. Blindness, 0% vision. Faintness, some vision, say 30-40% vision. Sorry, faintness come to ears. Blindness, dullness, blurred vision. okay, 50%. And sharpness, 100% vision. Variety is in the ears, eyes. Variety in the ears, deafness, faintness, and loudness, 0 to 100%. Skin, we have zero touch sensation, moderate touch sensation, and maximum touch sensation. Tongue, oh, so many varieties in the tongue. Okay, some people do not have any taste, some people have moderate taste, some people have acute taste buds. It differentiates. Nose, the power of smell varies from one person to another. During a cold, one cannot smell things. A normal person can smell things near him. Dogs can smell things that are quite far away. The full information is obtained only to the mind. These may be varying at whatever level, dull, sharpness, whatever, at whatever level they are able to take in different things in the world. When they are fed into the mind, it is the mind which is constant. At whatever level things are being fed through the sense objects to the mind is able to interpret in the same way. The full information is obtained only by the mind. In this sense, the mind is the master of the five senses. Mind is the seer and the senses are the seen. The mind is one. It integrates all the signals and forms the composite assessment of the particular object. All the five sense organs have the mind as their master. We see the mastery of the mind is the basic purpose of the sadhana. They send their reports and signals to the mind for further action. Okay, so there are five different sense organs which report to the mind. Each organ can receive only the signal that it is tuned to receive. So 20 of you are attending this satsang. Suppose he doesn't know the numbers. Each one will be hearing or listening. Hearing, not at all listening, or listening at various frequency. To the extent of your sharpness in your listen, the focus with which you are listening, to that extent you will take it to your mind. And to that extent the mind can contemplate. Mind waits for you to feed it. It doesn't cross you, it cannot cross you and do anything on your own. To the extent you are sharp, to the extent you are listening with focus, single pointed attention and grasping as it is told. We say always that the first love is the best love. Okay, the first time listening. In the Gurukula, in the Uttarkashi, in the Rishikesh, wherever, when the Upanishad sitting at the feet of the Acharya, when the Acharya pours, because when the Acharya pours, he is not in this creation. His eyes are closed or half. It says there is a little disturbance. Now it's gone. Okay. As much as the Acharya is pouring without the mind at all, in that first love, in that first divine romance, the disciple sitting at the feet of the Acharya should also be listening at the same frequency without the mind. There also no mind, here also no mind. When our first reaction is always a spontaneous, automatic, natural reaction. When we are given some time, even if the witness in a court case is given, sometimes it manipulates. The witness is manipulated as source. It has to be grasped as source. Otherwise, what will happen? Later on, what will happen? You will be sitting somewhere. Certain things will be happening in the family, or certain other things would have gone, would have happened at home or back home or wherever something would have happened. When you are listening now in the morning, nothing is there. Only he is there. You are seeing him. You are listening to him. Afterwards, by the evening of the next day, so many other things happening around in your family, at your home, at back home, neighbor home, school, office, career, etc., etc., center, activities, all those things would have gone. So all these things will disturb the listening without the mind. This is the problem. Okay. So in the second stage, mind is the seer, and eyes and all five sense organs, they are the see. That means my play, he assumes that till now it is very clear, because now we are going to go deep. Three principles, the scene are different, obviously. Number two, mind is one, the sense perception senses are many. The condition of the eyes, ear, nose keeps on. They see variety of things. They feel, they perceive so many things. Okay, perceptions are many. Okay, but the mind is the one. Mind will work with the different levels, different quality at different levels. That leave it. Don't get into that subjective thing. Mind is one. Mind is a seer. Okay, and various perceptions, various sense organs. We are taking the eye, for example. Eye represents everything. Okay, three things. Now we go to the third stage. How mind is the seen and what is the seer? Question mark. Now sharp. Forget your husband, wife, children, forget the creation. Now stay tuned. The fourth verse. काम संकल्प संदेह श्रद्धा अश्रद्धि धृतितरे हृदि बि इति एवं आदि भाष्यत एकधा चित्ते. The thoughts of desire, willingness or doubt, belief or disbelief, fortitude or its log, modesty, understanding, fear, and all such things. Whatever may be the diverse things. Chit. Okay, Bhashyat Ekada Chiti. One consciousness remaining the same illumines all. If you are sharp, you will understand perfectly. Consciousness today, which is going to be consciousness as it is going to be taught today, is not abstract. You have to be sharp. You have to give the promise that yes, Master. 100% with focus, I will listen. Even those who have not been able to know much about consciousness internally, there is a lot of possibility they may be clear today. Yes. Just as the qualities of self are innumerable at the third level, ranging from 0 to 100%. Now, at this third level, third stage, all these are further multiplied by the different interpretation given to each signal by the existing thoughts, feelings, and emotions in the mind. Indeed, the count of the number of thoughts becomes desire, willingness, doubt, belief, disbelief, fortitude, love, modesty, understanding, fear, etc. They are just sample. Like in the QC, we test random sampling. They are only sample. The list is exhaustive. There is an amazing variety of thoughts applicable to just one object. What to speak of all the countless objects that the mind knows. Literally, it is mind-boggling. Mental inclinations. We thought the first started with desires. Okay, what was this? Kama, desire. Kama sankalpa sandeho. Desires arise from imagination. Imaginations begins to get active when one is not happy with the present condition. For example, hunger is the feeling of wanting to have food. It is natural. When hunger comes, the mind starts desiring food. When one is full and content, the desire goes down and another desire comes up in its place. Who in us is that which is witnessing all these oscillations of the mind? Who in me is aware that I can understand what this person is saying? Who in me? Now, who in me you prefix with all that is going to be told. That when I am skeptical about what Acharya is teaching or scriptures are teaching, I am not believing in them too much. I found them to be too abstract or too confusing. That I am sad. When I can remember something, I may not aware that I am remembering something. When I am convinced about something, when I hold on to something in spite of challenges, am I not aware about my conviction to hold on to that thing in spite of challenges? If I cannot remember anything, my memory is failing me, am I not aware that I cannot remember anything? So all the functions of the mind are known to us. Whatever is happening in the mind is more or less known to us. We are aware of it. Therefore, when we say we are aware of whatever is going on in our mind, then something in us, when we say we are aware, when we say we are aware about the oscillations, dozens of oscillations we just listed. When we say we are aware about the changes, fluctuations in our mind, that means we cannot say mind, the mind is something different. Obviously, we started with the I. I, what the first verse says, the I cannot see itself. With that, we started, right? So when we said the I is the seer and the world are seen, if the I also goes and sits along with the other things, it has to be different from my sense perceptions so that the mind can perceive what my eye has seen, what my ear has listened, etc. If my mind also goes and mixes with all of them, the connection is breaking, it seems. He has even connected the network directly. Other than that, nothing. Maybe when the YouTube live, you can see everything. Bear with him. We have to find out a solution for this ultimately. So the mind has to be different from the sense organs which are perceiving things. That is, then only the mind can know. Of course, we know that our mind knows what our senses are perceiving. So the mind is different. Exactly with the same logic, 100% logic. We are aware about our mental fluctuations, oscillations, so many changes. Morning to evening, our mind undergoes so many things with the COVID situation, challenges in the office, challenges at home, challenges everywhere. So many things the mind is undergoing. We are knowing that the mind is undergoing so many things. So, like the I had to be different, he is again repeating so that it should be this. This is the foundation of Vedanta. This has to be very clear, otherwise, we will fail when we go to Upanishads. So the I has to be different for it to see things outside us. Similarly, something we don't know what it is. Acharya says it is consciousness, it is chit. So many things. Okay, he says jnana, pure awareness. At this point of time, since I have not experienced this, I know this is mouse because I am touching, I am seeing this. I don't know what consciousness is because I have not experienced this. Or a place in a remote village, in remote place in Madurai. The truth cannot be changed that those places exist. You are not aware, but they exist. In the same way, now when I have understood that something in me is aware of the changes, nothing in me, there has to be, bear with him, you will get everything in the YouTube. Okay, there are fluctuations. What you were saying? Yeah. Just because I am not able to be clear about what in me is knowing the changes in my mind, I cannot say that there is nothing which is seeing the mind. It is proven now that so many oscillations in the mind is being witnessed by something in me. At least don't give it a name consciousness, but you have to believe because it is proven now. From the I, we went subtler mind, subtler witness. When we close our eyes and look into the mind, that is what is known as introspection. Mind is different. Correct? Can't help, can't get transmitted means what he can do. What he can do, he lays helpless. Or do you want him to log off and log on again? You will join again. let us see. We will continue. If he receives another message from Raghava that it is getting disturbed, then maybe don't know what is the problem. Let him connect it properly. 1 minute. Be there, don't go away, okay? He will disconnect the net and connect again. Stay there. If it is an issue, then all of you don't get away. You be there. He will end this session and then he will come back again and Raghava will help you and he will send you the connection. Right? Be there. If suddenly it stops, then don't go away. Be there. So because it is that something which sees the mind, so the mind becomes the scene, and there is a something in us which is seeing the mind or which is knowing the mind, which is interpreting the mind. That is called as Sakshi. Very simple. In a court case, what is the witness? The witness is that which has seen the incident happening. Exactly here, it is nothing abstract, since there is something in us which is knowing the mind, which is knowing the oscillation of the mind, which is knowing the changes in the mind, which is knowing the various things happening in the mind. So it has to be known as witness. Since it is knowing, it is witnessing the mind, it is witness, Sakshi. That is consciousness. Only consciousness can be called Sakshi. Nobody helps it. It is an independent seer with no assistance from any other source. Consciousness is self-aware. Now let us apply 3 points. Number 1, the seer and the seen are different. The witness which watches the mind is different from the mind. Number 2.
So he is just repeating it so that others can join in the meanwhile. So we have to put this mind through the 3 tests. The mind and the various perceptions of the mind. No, the witness and the various oscillations in the mind which is witnessed by that. We don't know that. We are coming to that. So seer and seen are different. The witness which watches the mind is different from the mind. He explained that elaborately. Second, the seer remaining the same, the seen are many. Okay. So many things are going on in the mind, but the witness is one, which is witnessing so many things going on in the mind. And the third, the mind is continuously changing, whereas the sakshi, the witness, is not changing. A businessman goes to couple of analogies Swami Sarva Priyananda has given. From there, he has taken. A businessman comes to a Swami and says, "Please help me, oh Swami. I am feeling miserable. These things have happened to me. I am feeling literally miserable. Help me out." The Swamiji says, "Be cool. If you are experiencing the misery, then you cannot be miserable." The businessman sees, what is this? The Swamiji is explaining. You say you are feeling feeling miserable. You are knowing the misery which has happened to it. That means you are knowing the misery in your mind. Because the knower and the known are different, misery is a feeling in your mind. You are not miserable. You are feeling the misery in your mind. Still, you, the witness consciousness, is protected. So be comfortable. Don't worry. That which is aware of the sadness cannot be sad. Okay. This man goes and thinks about it and he is composed. Yes, yes, yes. I am feeling the misery of the mind. My mind is feeling miserable because of whatever the mind has perceived with the sense organs, whatever the surroundings, whatever the situation, business laws, these, that, the mind, the senses have conveyed to the mind, and the mind is feeling miserable. I am different from that mind because I am witnessing the misery of the mind. If I cut off myself from the mind, I cannot be miserable. Peace sets in him. And then he rushes to the Swamiji and says, "Swamiji, now I am peaceful. Thank you. You have clarified things to me." Swami said, "No, you are not peaceful. You are knower of the peace in your mind." Okay. Earlier, you are feeling the misery in your mind. Now you are feeling the peace in your mind. Both are not you. Because earlier you are feeling the misery of your mind and you are feeling miserable. If you don't cut off from whatever is happening to the mind, then today, now, temporarily you may be peaceful. But since you are associating you with your mind and you are saying, "I am miserable" or "I am peaceful," tomorrow again something comes to you, you feel miserable. You are neither of them. Okay. The moment I am say I am peaceful, I am again getting attached to the mind. Classic example. Parti, darshan, sparshan, sambhashan, whatever happens, it is all in our mind. Unless and until during the darshan, sparshan, we transcend Swami's form, we transcend our form, we go beyond the mind realm of the mind, we go reach somewhere else, that experience stays permanently. But with emotions, with mind, whatever we have felt during that darshan, if our mind is involved, then that mind is involved in all other disturbances once we cross the Ganesha gate. Okay, no use. A classic example. A mother, he has given in some other context to few devotees. It has to be repeated here. A mother who is so attached to her child, tremendously attached. She is going through various emotions due to her attachment with the child, young child. All these things are going on in the mind of that mother. And then the mother goes to deep sleep. In the deep sleep, what has happened? Mind is cut off. You exist as the witness, though in the deep sleep, your witness is not being put to use because you are not exposed to the world. In that deep sleep, what happens to her attachment to the child? What happens to her passion towards the child? Once the mind is cut off, okay, in the deep sleep, in spite of the deepest attachment and the deepest emotions and the mind being working all through, in spite of all those things, in the deep sleep, the mother is sleeping peacefully. There is no thought about the child. Okay. So if you're separate from the mind, you are an entity independent of the mind and the body. The problems of the mind and the body do not touch you. You may be aware of them when they come up. Only when they come up, only when the mind is active, you are aware of them. When they go away, you are aware that the problems are gone. Awareness stays permanent in all through. Things come and go. This state of going beyond the mind is explained as Turiyam in the Mandukya Upanishad, and Turiyam is explained as Shantam, peace. Not the peace of the mind, as that businessman went and told the monk Swamiji, now I am no. This is the peace due to transcending the mind, which stays for a long time. So in the mother example, the Swamiji example, what we have to gather is whatever things come to you, my misery, my poverty, my failure, my desires, my success, everything, nothing belong to you. You have to learn to let go of all those things which you cannot hold on to. It will go away anyway. It has come. You are imagining that you are holding on to it, like the monkey example, which put its hand to pick up the peanuts. And it was holding the peanuts, so it could not release the hand. It was crying. And once it's left the peanut, it could release its hand. Exactly. All these things, my failure, my disturbance, my agitation, my restlessness, my problem, my this, hold on to me, the witness. You have a right, you have a liberty to leave all those things. They are not yours in any way, because they are not going to stay with you permanently. Things will outside will keep on changing. The mind will keep on grasping whatever things are changing, fluctuating through, and the sense organs feed the mind, and the mind takes it. And as the things change outside, in our business, in our career, in our family, in and around us, how many changes have happened to us? Every time it is mind which has been feeling and experiencing all those things. If the mind will be there, you cannot kill the mind. But if you decide to stay away like the mother in the deep sleep, if you decide that I will not cling on to whatever my mind is conveying to me, I will stand as witness to the mind. Shantam, Mandukya Upanishad. Shantam of that mother when she did not have her mind in the deep sleep. The next, this has also been conveyed to you in the group messages. But here it fits in perfect, so it has to be explained. There is this Swamiji of the highest order in the Ramakrishna ashram, Belur Met, Mokshanandaji, who is not existing anymore. This Swami Sarvapriyananda, when he was a student, novice student, young initiated into the Ramakrishna, this thing, ashram Ramakrishna Math. Okay, he used to go with his young, energetic mind, inquisitive mind. He used to go and get so many doubts clarified from this monk, who was a very, very senior person. And now the stage has come that he has become old, and he is on medicines, and he is struggling, and he's reached that last stage in life. Incidentally, same Sarvapriyanandaji, who is now wiser than before, who has become a little older, he goes to him with another set of questions. The mind, intellect the level in it has come down. Like before, he used to answer, this Swamiji is not able to answer, relate to the questions posed by the disciple. He is not able to answer. Okay. So this Sarvapriyanandaji, he is feeling sad about the whole thing. How energetically this Swamiji used to answer to me everything. So he is saying, he's telling, I feel very sad about it. I can't see you like this. Okay. The Swamiji says, I cannot answer your questions. I cannot remember anymore. It is all going away. But then what he says, has it gone? Whatever he has learned, everything is gone. His mind is finished, means everything is finished. How about that witness inside? Mind is decaying. Okay, existence, birth, existence, growth, disease, decay, death, wave and the ocean, we saw. Okay, the mind is decaying. That means that whatever he has learned, it was at the mind level, as we all learn at mind level. Has it? No, he didn't stop at that. The Swamiji says, let it go. Its work is done. All the Vedanta I have studied in my life, all the scholarship I have got, let it go. Its work is done. the purpose is achieved. He has got something eternal, something permanent, something unshakable. Let everything go. Let the body go. Let the mind go. Let the intellect go. Let everything go. But in my heydays with my mind and intellect, sharp mind and intellect, that's why I said don't postpone spirituality to the sick age, old age. It will not help you. So in the sharp intellect, sharp focus, he says 100% razor edge focus, focus, focus. He says with the focus, whatever he had learned, it has served its purpose. As witness consciousness, as witness, as that part of the pure canvas, he is merged with the pure canvas. The Atman individual consciousness has merged with the supreme absolute pure consciousness. The Atman has merged with the Brahman. He stands liberated. The purpose of whatever he learned at his young age, at his youth, it is fulfilled. The energy, the radiation in his eyes and the aura around him speaks it all. The purpose is achieved. He says, what if I am not able to answer to your questions? What if my mind is not working? The purpose is done. What is this state of existence? Attaining which, discovering which, the monk said, let it go. Its work is done. What is that stage? Fifth verse. This is the stage. न उदेति न अस्तमेत एषा न वृद्धिं याति न क्षयम् स्वयं विभाति अथ अन्यानि भाष्येत sadhanam vina. This witness does not arise, nor does it set. Na udheti, na astamet esha. The witness does not arise, nor does it set. It does not increase, nor does it decrease. It shines by itself, and then others does it illumine. Bhashyate, bhashyet sadhanam vina. It illumines others. It illumines itself. It illumines others without any other sadhana vina, without any external aid. Consciousness, it is the eternal witness of all internal changes. Neither rise means birth, coming into existence of an entity previously non-existent. This cannot be predicted of consciousness as it is the witness of even previous non-existence. May look abstract. Connect with pure canvas. You are also connected at the pure canvas, Chitradeepa. The pure canvas, Anantam, without any boundary, Brahman, pure canvas existed. Through some way, through some secret, when you were born, you were a part of the pure canvas, drawing in the pure canvas, and seated on the pure canvas. When you were born, you absorbed that pure canvas, that consciousness part, and you were consciousness. Afterwards, you are existing as the witness, Sakshi. So this pure canvas part, this pure consciousness which you absorbed, it is never born. It is always there. Your body has died, your body is born. Every time, 100th time, 1000th time you are born with a new body, you absorb only one thing, the pure canvas part, indivisible part, you absorb consciousness. That has never born that will never die. Your body is born, your body is dead. And every time you are born through a very secret process, you have absorbed that part of the pure canvas, pure consciousness, and you then thereafter, that is called as reflected consciousness. Still, till now, he has not got the intuition. If he gets the intuition, he after leaving a gap, next 5 verses will explain about the entire process. Okay, we are now clear. We are the witness. We are the witness. But this absorbing process, how you, we, me, the human being, we have absorbed this consciousness so that we are able to exist as witness. This part, Chidakasha and Chidabhasa, absolute consciousness reflected, how this reflection takes place. That is explained in the next 5 verses. If it comes from within, he will take up that. It depends largely on how much you are able to understand this part. Otherwise, there is no use of going advanced. Okay. Swami says, you go to the very easy, lucid example. Swami says, even when one says God is nowhere, he splits the no and he says, he connects the W there. He says, actually, he is saying that the God is now here. That means even when I am telling that I don't believe in this, all this consciousness and all these things, everything, God is nowhere. And I'm saying consciousness, Dvaitins, all other school of philosophy deny the Advaita. They deny all about consciousness. Some theory says that the matter originated on its own. So many theories are there. The Panchadashi, it's all about the argument between the Dvaitin and the Advaitin. Brahma Sutra goes and it clarifies all possible contradictions we can come to our mind regarding the Advaita. Okay. So when I'm saying that I don't believe, I cannot relate to all these conscious. I am born with this body, my mind is working, everything is there, intellect is there. This consciousness fundamental. My friend, God is nowhere means God is now here. It is only due to that awareness, consciousness within you that you are able to even feel that you don't believe in that consciousness. Okay. Since it is not born, it will never die. It will never disappear. Na udheti na astamet esha. Okay. Does not increase, does not decrease. All the world, objective world, including our body, which goes through the 6 stages from the birth, existence to death, they can go increase or decrease, like the wave increased and decreased. This pure canvas consciousness and me, the pure consciousness with absorbing that pure canvas consciousness within me, that consciousness, eternal witness, can neither be born nor die, nor he had to explain these various treatises. He will bypass that. He will just read it out. Mundaka Upanishad says, all Upanishads talk about only this witness consciousness. Only one secret. Mundaka Upanishad says, the Purusha, that is the witness. At individual level, we started from our I, then we went to our mind, and then we came to the witness. Existing as that witness, that Swamiji said that let the mind go. No problem. Exactly at the Brahmanda level, at the macrocosm level, it is that pure canvas, pure consciousness, okay, which is never born, which will never die. You, from the individual mind, you say, you go to the Hiranyagarbha, the macrocosm level mind. From the individual witness, you expand and reach out to that pure consciousness, pure awareness, pure canvas. Never born, never will die, never has the 6 stages, never will go long, never will come short. That is the Purusha. The Purusha is transcendental, and since he is formless, since he is coextensive with all that is internal and external, and since he is birthless, therefore he is without the mind, without the prana, nothing. Nothing which is there for our human being, it is valid for the Purusha. He is without all those things. Because we have the eye, we have the sense organs, we have the mind, we have everything, we have intellect, and then we have the witness. Purusha is only that witness without all these things. Atma Bodha, it says, verse number 32. You can see in the blog post 37 or 40 or 41, you can go through this detailed explanation. It says, I am other than the body. Thus, not for me is this birth, wrinkling, senility, death, and so on. With sense objects such as sound, etc., association is nil. Me, the witness, pure witness, I am not associated with anything of this. I am without, like the Purusha, it was just explained, without all these things. Me, the pure consciousness, when I know I am the witness, and then when I come outside of my meditation and I am also aware of my mind, sense organs, then all those things exist. When I stand liberated and when I exist eternally as that pure witness, exactly as that Purusha Brahman, for me also, this mind, intellect, nothing is there, though they may function on their own. He's cutting short. Kathopanishad. When we talk about birthless, deathless, we cannot leave this. By no means. So we'll cut it short. Nachiketa, something happens to him. He goes and asks for 3 boons from Lord Yama. The first 2 boons are granted, and the third boon, he says, people say we are born and we die, we come and we go. About this coming and going, I want to know. I want to know about the mystery of death, how it happens. Yama is reluctant because it is the highest philosophy. He attracts Nachiketa. He offers so many other things. He said, "Don't ask me this question. You take whatever you want." Nachiketa said, "I don't want anything, Master. I want the answer for this." And then whatever Lord Yama then takes over and pours, that is the Kathopanishad, one of the most subtlest, most profound Upanishads out of the 10, 11 major Upanishads. In the Brahma Vidya about the deathlessness, Amritasya, few verses which Lord Yama reveals to Nachiketa, the essence of those verses are this. The Atman is birthless and deathless. It did not spring from anything. It is eternal, everlasting, and ancient. It is not slain through the body is slain, though the body is slain. Brahman is not produced like a pot out of clay. He is causeless. He is birthless. He is causeless. Pure canvas. It is free from all modifications which are incidental to things in the world. Brahman is undecaying and unchanging, neither long nor short. Brahman never decays as it is everlasting. Changes and developments do not take place in Brahman as it is unchanging and everlasting. Ashtavakra Gita. First chapter, the preceptor Ashtavakra is showing the mirror to Janaka as to who he actually is, the pure witness consciousness, and what he has been thinking about him as something other than pure consciousness. Second chapter, by that time, Janaka was in such an advanced level that by the time the preceptor Ashtavakra finishes the first chapter, they said he has attained mukti. And then all exclamations, aho, comes from Janaka. He says, it's all about the birthless, deathless. In that context, we are going through he's giving you some taste of few verses. Hundreds and thousands of verses in the Vedanta Upanishad tells only about this secret. Aho aham namo mahyam ekoham dehavanapi क्वाचिन्न गंत नागंता व्याप्य विश्वम अवस्थिता. I am astonished at myself. Indeed, even in this being in this body, I am one. Naganta na naganta. I am neither coming nor going. I am everywhere at once. This is a moment of awakening that Swamiji told. Let everything go. What had to be attained has been attained. Now, let us align whatever we have learned to some of the sessions which we have taken up earlier. If we take the pure canvas pure, then it is the eyes which see all the drawings in the canvas, pure canvas. It is the eye or senses that perceive all characters going on in a movie. Eye is a subject. All the other things seen on a movie theater or on the pure canvas, they are all objects. Eye is the seer, they are seen. Eye is subtler, the things seen are grosser. And ultimately, all those gross things, when they are captured by the eye, they lose their identity. They come and merge in the eye because eye has taken over by them, being subtler than them, the gross things. Then it is the mind which is seeing all, which is interpreting all those things which were seen by the eyes, which all those things which were absorbed by the eyes, the grosser thing finished, the eyesight, the whatever was seen is remains. Now the mind takes over, being subtler than the eyesight. Then whatever things have been fed to the mind, they are active. Whatever was seen by the eyes, that sight has lost the significance, that has gone and merged in a subtler thing than it, the mind. Okay, but the eyesight, the interpreting the mind, all these are possible because of the indivisible part of that pure canvas which is absorbed by me as reflected consciousness. Due that consciousness has been like the floodlight, it has been illumining my eyesight first, and then the mind, the intellect is a part of mind only. Because of that witness, pure consciousness, all those things, the eye could see, the ear could hear, the nose could smell, the hand could touch, the skin could feel. And then because of that pure canvas, pure consciousness, reflected consciousness, part of the pure canvas, awareness, my mind could interpret all those things. Remove this illumination, pure awareness from the scenario. Your mind is a dead mind. Your eyes are dead. Everything is dead. Because there is no light, the light in the eye. That light is the illumination. There is no light in the mind. That light is that illumination, is that part of the pure canvas, that jnana, pure awareness, consciousness, which is now understood as sakshi, witness. Now you also run your contemplation, since we are falling short of time. Now validate all the last verse to that pure canvas, whatever our understanding, birthless, deathless, changeless, decayless, neither short nor long, non-decaying, everything you contemplate, it is all valid to me, the pure witness, pure consciousness. We are coming to the last part. Okay, Guruji, everything is clear. But still, this witness, whatever you have been teaching us for a long time. When we started the WhatsApp group, then when we started the WhatsApp group, I think Upadesha Saram was going on. From that time onwards, from the 2007, when he described Antaryami Sai, when he described the Kaivalya Dhama, when he describes Brahmanda Nayaka, when all he has been pouring all about this witness consciousness only, Purusha, Brahman, Atman, in all the blog posts. Now you have clarified, we are very clear about all these things intellectually, but still we have not experienced that still. How to get more nearer to that witness consciousness? In the next few minutes, he is going to be referring as I. Each one of you apply this to I, to yourself. I. All the 20 I of you. He is speaking on behalf of you. You may close your eyes, cut off from the world for the next 5-10 minutes. It's ending now. He's not to be blamed. He was going ahead of time due to the internet issues. Got delayed. Close your eyes. Just stay tuned. I see this world. So many different human beings, birds, flowers, mountains, ocean, sun, moon. How many colors, how many shapes do I see in all of them? Some dark human beings, some like the different shape of the different pots made by the potter, so many different shapes, so many different colors in these human beings. I am seeing so many fantastic, unbelievable colors in the birds I am seeing. How to talk about, what do I say about the beauty of the colors in the flowers which I see? Then the blue moon, the blue ocean, the bright sun, etc. Are my eyes catching them as a standalone eyes? The eyes are 100% equipped in themselves without the aid of anything subtler than them to capture the beauty or the not so beauty of all the things around me which my eyes see? Is there any other faculty in me which is through which I am able to perceive what the eyes have seen, or there is nothing? If I have no mind, what would happen to the variety of objects captured by the eyes? The eyes capture the variety. Immediately the sight gets into my mind and intellect through some secret phenomena which I may not be knowing now. All the senses, are they all illumined by themselves? Do they stand alone? Or they go back, retrace to something else? Well, my mind reacts to the sight. It is my mind which captures the sign that conveys to me, not my physical eyes, physical senses. Now, about my mind. Is my mind self sufficient? Is my mind illumined in itself? Is it the cause by itself? Or it is supported or illumined by something else? My mind is illumined by the witness consciousness. Otherwise, left to it, it is not illumined by itself. Right? My mind cannot convey to my mind that in my dream, I had dream. My mind cannot convey to my mind that my mind dreamt something. All are contradictory. There has to be something else to convey to my mind that it dreamt something. It is more clear when it comes to my deep sleep. My mind is not there. In dream, mind is there. Deep sleep, mind is not there at all. Nor is my intellect present. So the mind is gone. But still, there is something in me which watches me in my deep sleep and reports to me next day that the mind was totally at rest with no good or bad dreams. If there was not that something other than my mind and intellect, what would have happened after my sleep when I get up? It will all be blank. I would not get the clarity that I had a very sound sleep on the previous night. At worst or at best, it will be all be blank, as if my life is starting on from that day. Mind is not there, but something is there which has stood there and witnessed my sleep and is conveying to me that you had no mind, you had no intellect, obviously, you had no body, but you had a sound sleep. Like you are in a hospital, like you lay unconscious in hospital. The doctor reports to you that you are unconscious, you are murmuring something, or you are speaking something, or you are telling something, you are conveying something. The doctor is the witness to you. Your mind is not working, your body is not working, your intellect is not working. This is about a doctor who is different from you. Here, when you talk about you, the witness, you are the doctor, you are the patient. You are the witness, you are the mind when it comes to your mind. You, the witness, is conveying, illumining the mind when it is active. You, the witness, is standing alone when the mind is not active and conveying to you that your mind was not active in your deep sleep. Okay? Let me test this witness. This witness, does it have a cause? Does it retrace to something which existed earlier than it? Or, like the mind was seer with reference to the sense objects, and the mind was seen with reference to the witness, can this witness also be seen to another witness? When I exist as that witness, at the same time, I can also be existing as seen, different from me, the seer, the witness. Can me, the witness, be changeless, and also me, the witness, at relatively at can be many? Not possible. If we have understood the witness clearly, it is not possible. Clear? He can leave you with this. This is what Dridrishya Viveka is all about. Finished the 5 chapters. Still, Sai intuitively wants him to take you more closer and almost witness that witness within you for a moment. With that, we will end. Brothers and sisters, most of you or some of you have had the fortune of darshan of Bhagavan. You were seated in the hall, and Swami was walking from Yajur Mandir. Several 100 meters away, then he came gliding. He was 200 meters away, 100 meters away, 50 meters away, 5 meters away, 2 meters away, and he came and stood before you. And he indicated for Pada Namaskar and says, Tisko. And your tears, Ananda tears, that had the audacity to go and wet his Pada Kamala. And you prostrated. Go and stand at that moment, that particular one moment. Now, was your mind active there? No way. Had you had your sensation about your body? Absolutely not. Your eye sense organs were active and they were seeing, they were experiencing something? No, because your eyes were closed even while Swami was standing there. Because you were internally yourself witness, it was absorbing that aura of that divine phenomena called Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Your mind was not there. You were on none of the sense organs you were aware about. Your intellect was not working. Nothing your mind was conveying to you. But at that moment when Swami was standing before you, when your tears rolling over your chest, Ananda Kannir, when you are prostrating and looking up, apparently your eyes were open, but physical eyes were not performing the physical function of merely seeing an object. Swami was not an object, not a color. Through the supposedly naked eyes, supposedly limited mind, all the functions expanded, all of them lost their significance, and you as pure self, like you are you occupied and you took that pure canvas part, like that you as pure self, you were absorbing the radiation, you are absorbing the aura, you are absorbing that unlimited consciousness which was standing before you with a shape, with a body. The body shape was gone. You, the self, was absorbing the unlimited self, Brahmandaraya. What more proof you require to know that when you transcend your body, mind, intellect, when you transcend this world, this creation, everything, when you are one to one, you are one to one with the pure self consciousness. When you have transcended everything, with that one side, one experience, less experience, which he may say, what more proof you want than this to prove to yourself that yes, it is possible for me to experience myself as the pure witness consciousness. What more proof you want? He has almost taken you to Puttaparthi, he has parked you there, and he has made you relive that moment of experience. You were pure consciousness, pure witness at that point of time. And now, this existence as pure witness Sakshi is not no more alien to you, no more abstract to you, no more a knowledge to you. You were existing as that. And Nididhyasana meditation is all about experiencing that for a longer duration. Jivan Mukti or liberation is all about existing as that awareness all through. All of them now, after this spore, do not remain as impossible for you. Through that one moment of that transcending all physical limitations, mind, intellect, body, and experiencing that pure you, your existence as pure witness consciousness, bliss, such as Ananda. At that point of Darshan, Sparshan, Sambhashan, it is proven to you that you are that witness once you discard your mind, like the mother discarded her mind in her deep sleep. In every deep sleep, you are realized soul. What more proof you need? Concrete, solid proof you need to know, to be aware that yes, I am that pure witness consciousness. Now my life has to be spent in meditation, in absorbing future Upanishad sessions, starting with this more and more deeper, 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 not get enslaved into the play of my mind, but to get inward, 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 increasing the intensity of the meditation and to experience that moment when I was with Swami, without his form being there, without my form being there. My purpose of my existence, my breathing is to experience that me as pure witness consciousness for longer duration, maybe 2 minutes to start with, or 1 minute 30 seconds to start with. There at Parthi, who existed? Atma Bodha was Shraddha Adi Vishayati Sangha, Nir Indriyataya Nacha. With sense objects such as sound, etc., association is nil. I, the self, existed in Parthi there without any mind, without any sense organs. Birthless, deathless, neither long nor short, undecaying. He ends with two quotes of Swami, 2 minutes. He said, I want peace. And then he wanted you to remove the I want and rest at peace. And then in another context, he said, you have come from God. You are spark of his glory. You are a wave of that ocean of bliss. You will get peace. He talked about I want peace, remove the I want, and you are at peace. He said you will get that peace only when you again merge in him. Now let us align these both quotations, which are Upanishads in themselves, and end this satsang. which got a little delayed due to the connection problems. He says, you are a spark of his glory. You are a wave of that ocean and bliss. But I am not able to experience me as a spark of that Swami. Why? Why? Because you want, I want. I want is your ego. It is your ego which is giving you the identity of your intellect, your mind in the CRC in second, third, fourth verse. Your ego which is giving you your identity of your mind, your intellect, your body, your senses, everything. That is the I want. He says, remove that I want. So in the gradation, the I want, removing the I want is go beyond your eyes, five senses. Then removing the I want, go beyond your mind. Then removing the I want, go beyond your sattvic intellect. Then all the I want ego is transcended. Then what remains? Mandukya Upanishad, Shantam. And what Swami said, you have come from God. You are a spark of his glory. You are a wave. You will get that peace only when you remove the I want, ego, mind, transcend mind, intellect, as per the learning of the today's initial verses, and go and as per that existence in Puttaparthi, seated in front of Swami, as per that, you remove the I want, you transcend your mind, at least in the seat of meditation, you transcend all the limitations of your mind, sense organs, sense objects, perceptions, feeling, and then transcend the intellect and exist as Sakshi, witness. Then you will get peace when you again merge with him. You will merge with him, and then you realize that you are a wave of that infinite bliss. You are a spark of that God. You are a spark of his glory. If Swami wills, we will go into the process of how you have absorbed that witness in new consciousness in you in the future sessions. Meditate, meditate, contemplate, contemplate, absorb, absorb, realize, 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 and be still, silent, changeless self. Hari Om, that's it. Jai Sai Ram. When both these sessions get aligned and come to you as a single YouTube live, then the continuity will be there. There cannot be a more logical exposition of the reality that you are that pure witness consciousness. Jai Sai Ram. I pray that you stay tuned to this session for the next 1 week, 2 weeks, and absorb it fully, not with mind, not with intellect. No, useless. Understanding with mind, intellect, useless. Go to that level of seated before Swami. At that level, absorb the session. Absorb this session and then chant Gayatri with that understanding of Gayatri. Surely you will get that spark.